Okay, let's do this. Where were we? That's right. Auditory. Auditory system and other senses. So the auditory system basically talks about hearing, the nature of sound and how you experience it. So basically, sound waves are vibrations that are processed by the auditory system. The change of length and wavelength is driven by the frequency. We talked about this the other one. Frequency is the exponential cycles per time. The pitch is the interpretation of the frequency. Um, and then it varies by the amplitude, which is the amount of pressure produced. Loudness, on the other hand, is a perception of amplitude also. Um, Most sounds are complex sounds, which are a bunch of frequency mixed together. Timbre, Timbre, is the quality of the sound, which is the difference between the trumpet and the trombone. For example, a high pitch would be like, a low pitch would be like, yeah, basically. Uh, Structure and function of the ear. Now we're talking about the ear. The ear purpose is to transmit a very similar sound to the brain and analyze it. Sound needs to have qualities and its location and frequency and timbre, whatever. The outer ear. So there's two parts of the ear, by the way. There's the outer ear, the middle ear, the outer ear, inner, outer, middle. The outer ear is basically consists of the pinna, P-I-N-A, and the external auditory canal. The pinna is the funnel shaped, is the visual part. It's basically like this. That's it. Then the middle ear is basically moving through the auditory canal and channels sounds through the eardrum. So there's the eardrum, the stirrup and anvil, and the hammer. The eardrum is basically a tympanic membrane which separates the outer and the middle ear, and it basically vibrates in response to the sound, which basically mimics the sound that we got. The hammer, anvil, and stirrup are a bunch of little bones that when they vibrate to the fluid in the inner ear, the muscle separates them to create a vibration. They can basically amplify and decrease the sounds if necessary. The inner ear, now that's where all the work is. The inner ear has, in the oval window, has the cochlea basilar membranes, which convert sound waves to neural impulses to the brain. The stirrup is connected to the oval window that sends to the cochlea, which is a fluid-filled structure. The basilar membranes, which coils around the cochlea and varies in width and length, which basically it works with a vibration. I'm pretty sure that inside there's the hair cells, which are basically the sensory receptors of sounds. Cochlea implants is basically dealt with working with deaf people, which we'll talk about later. Here's a visual representation of the whole ear structure. Okay. Then we have theories of hearing. Why do we hear? There's this thing called the place theory, which basically talks about sound hits a specific part of the basilar membranes, and then high pitch stimulates the narrow part. Okay, so place theory basically says that sound hits a specific part of the basilar membranes, and depending on where it hits, it's gonna either vibrate. It's going to either resonate more or it's going to resonate less. And depending where it hits, it's going to have a higher or lower pitch. But the thing about that is that with lower pitch, it doesn't really with higher pitch, it don't really hit anywhere specific. Or with lower pitch, it don't really hit anywhere specific. With lower pitch, I don't hit anywhere specific. So the thing is that it doesn't really. How would we hear low pitches? So then frequency theory came in, which basically says our ear vibrates as many times as the wave is hitting it, which makes a lot of sense. But the thing is that with really, really high frequency sounds, our neurons can only fire so many times, and there are some waves that are faster than the times that our brain can fire. But the Valley principle basically states that neurons work together in order to vibrate more than once, and as one vibrates, the other one vibrates, the other one vibrates, being able to match the amount of frequency that the sound is creating. There's three different types of deafness. There's conduction deaf, which is basically damaged bones. There is sensory neural deaf, which is when you really fucked up. You can't hear anything after this. The cochlea is messed up, the inner ear, the auditory processing, everything. Then there's nerve death, which is basically when your actual nerve dies, the hair cells, which cochlea implants can help improve that. Auditory processing in the brain. Basically, information is hid The hair cells absorb it. The auditory nerve carries the neural impulses to the brain. Hair cells turn physical sounds into actual potential. Localizing sound. We localize sound based on where it's hitting us. It can either hit us to the front, to the side, to the side, to the side, and based on that, we're gonna hear on the location. So we can localize things based on just the sounds. There is sound shadow, which is the provides a barrier of the intensity. Now there's other senses, which would be like skin sense. The skin sense is the largest organ besides my, and it's basically capable of perceiving pain, touch, temperature by continuous senses. Touch, for example, we detect mechanical energy against the skin with X amount of pressure. We feel it via sensory fibers. From the skin, they go to the spinal cord, and then they switch sides and go to the thalamus. Then there's temperature. We feel temperature based on warmth and called thermoreceptors. They control temperature of the body. When both are activated, we perceive hotness. Pain. Pain basically works in the sensation that warns us to damage our body. So pain is basically like a big red flag, so you should not listen to pain. Mechanic pressure switches to pain, which is basically when there's an X amount of mechanic pressure, you start feeling pain. When there's any excess stimulants, you're gonna feel pain. They're in the skin, muscle, tissues, organs, and bones, and by that I mean pain receptors. Mechanical energy works with that. There's prostaglands, which send pain receptors. Fast pathway, which goes to the thalamus, straight to the sensory receptors, and then a slow pathway, which is like really pain. The gate control theory basically says that we can only feel one pain at a time. Chemical senses. Smell and taste work with chemicals and surroundings. So taste and smell are chemical. So taste, there's a thing on your tongue called like your papillars. But they contain your taste buds. Your they have a name in Spanish, but I can't remember it. Your whatever, that thing in your mouth. The taste buds basically identify depending on where it is. You can feel either sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and there's a new one that we're trying to prove, which is umami, which is a new taste of our glutamine. Smell is also chemical. We need to recognize what to eat and what not to eat. This is part of a evolutionary approach, if you may. The olfactory epithelium olfactory. It's the factory of your nose, which makes sound. Listen to me. The olfactory deals with smell. It lands in the nasal cavity, which is the sheet receptors. It replaces after injury, like others. It goes through sensory pathways. Blah blah blah. Then we have kinesthetic and vestibular senses. Kinesthetic senses, posture, movement, orientation. Vestibular senses, which is balance, movement. There are muscle fibers. Proprioceptive feedback, which is position of our limbs in respect to our body, and then there's semicircular canals in our ears, which sends the way that our head moves, for example, in girls who pirouettes and stuff. I don't have a whole thing on perception because I didn't know I had to do it, and that's why I got like a 92, 93 on my notebook chart. But yes, I don't have perception, and don't kill me, please. Okay, minute 5 for you.